Welcome to Oral Bites Podcast with your hosts, Kate Bootman and Carl Horton.
We have a Mr. Neil Simkin. Hello. We have Mr. Carl Horton. Hello. And myself, Kate Bootman. How are you both doing?
Good, thank you. Oh, sorry.
What are you doing?
It's taking me mic off so that Neil could talk, actually communicate. Yeah, it's been all good. It's been a busy morning, but pushing on through and ready to take on this afternoon. But yeah, a good day again.
Fabulous. So, today, gentlemen, I think we're going to have a little chat about digital workflow, scanning. So get those little brain cells going. So,
Okay.
So both of you, I know that both of you use scanners. I know you follow digital workflow. Neil, you and I literally, before we started to do the podcast, touched upon you. Did you say you went on a course, or what was it the other week?
Last weekend, it was the My Dentist Clinical Conference. They have it about every 3 years, and it's sort of previously touched on sort of big innovations that might be coming in the future. And I remember one a few years ago, they had VR glasses and doing all these sorts of things, which actually is starting to be in. I was at the training academy yesterday, and they were teaching people how to do scanner workflows with VR glasses. So she's quite quirky. But a lot of the stuff that they were demonstrating this year is stuff that we're actually seeing in practice. So these aren't pie in the sky ideas. The digital workflow, the digital practice, they turned to the practice of the future, but a lot of it is already here. So it was really exciting. Scanners, Carl and I, we've been scanning now for 7-8 years. So scanning for us is no longer a new technology. We use it for every aspect of what we do digitally, but it's now what you do with that information. A big part of what I do is clear aligners. So we know that the fit is going to be ideal when we use scanners because they are dimensionally perfect. But taking it back to more conventional dentistry, we saw the launch of My Dentist now have a full range of digital dentures. And when we say digital dentures, we mean 3D printing. So now dentures, which is something that a few years ago I'd have been quite happy to say goodbye to in its entirety, is now something I'd be quite happy almost if that was all I ever did. Dentures are now 2 visits, scan, fit, whatever type of denture, we can pretty much do that in 2 visits, making it better for us dentists, better for the patient. And of course, because it's all digital, 3D printed, it means it exists as a file. So if the patient ever loses their denture, they don't even need to come into the practice. You just make a phone call and a new denture is made. So some real high-level innovation. We're seeing it in crowns and bridge workflows as well, which has been there for a good while. But it's what you do next, what you do with those bits and pieces next. And we're seeing printers coming into 3D printers coming into practice, where patients we're not quite there on the material yet, but we can actually, the concept is there, and they had it a demonstration where we can actually print crowns just within 20 minutes. Patient has the scan, has the preparation of the teeth. Half an hour later, they're walking out with a crown fitted in, which is quite a big step forward. It's huge. I mean, we're not talking milling machines, we're talking printers. So there's a slight difference in there. This is something that's actually producing the product from another material. It's not something that's milling it. The material has already been produced and then it's cutting it down. This is actually making it from, liquid or whatever that is, whatever material we're using upwards. It's absolutely fantastic.
So
it's amazing.
In terms, jumping straight back, in terms, Neil, you mentioned accuracy. For comfort and efficiency, compared to, obviously, this is replacing impressions. For patients, that's a mouthful of goo. So the accuracy, you're getting fantastic results.
Absolutely. Historically, dentures, crowns, bridges would be made using that impression technique. And even though impression materials got better, you were still talking about accuracy within almost millimeters or sort of significant fractions of a millimeter. And when the item has a very small tolerance, then the amount of hours many a dentist spend having something that looks amazing when it comes back from the lab, been beautifully handmade, manufactured, and just doesn't fit. And then what do you have it remade, but through the same process? So actually, it's just not going to fit the next time. Or do you spend ages grinding it in, drilling away great chunks of this denture or crown to make it fit? Now, the phrase I use is like working with Lego. It comes back from the lab, you take it off the model, you know that model was dimensionally perfect, and we're talking accurate to within fractions of the width of a human hair. So that level of accuracy, it is absolutely spot on. Things are designed by computer, so nothing is made where inaccuracies could creep in. It's all designed on computer, so the first time something actually exists is when it is finished. And then you take it off the model onto the tooth, and patients just bite together. Fantastic, yeah, feel great. So no adjustments, you're not losing any of those pictures. It's a proper game changer.
Well, for you in implants, as I'm sure time-wise, because I'm going to talk about the turnaround that you mentioned a moment ago as well, Neil. So for the implant work that you use it for, would you say that it helps with a quicker turnaround to having the restorative bits back?
Yeah, I think yes, there's no think about it. It certainly does. There's lots. I mean, like Neil said, there's been lots of changes over the years. So when I first started scanning, we were using the old ITRO machine, and you'd wheel it in. Take about 3 people to actually move the machine compared to the little handheld device that we've got now. And then it would be, to do a single tooth, it'd be about 20 minutes. Easy, it'd blow cold air on the patients, and if they were sensitive, it was a very unpleasant experience, and it was almost off-putting if it wasn't for the people that just the early adopters and really pushed with it. And then there was spray coatings that we were putting on the teeth and trying to do that, and it's totally changed now. So now what we're able to do is scan the full archwork. So as Neil's saying, with the implants, it has to be absolutely precise, otherwise the bridges don't fit. And if there's any inaccuracy in that bridge, then it might not fail immediately, but down the line, there's going to be issues. And that could be something like fracturing of the zirconia all the way down to the implants failing, because there are stresses that are being introduced. So it has to fit passively. And that's been one of the struggles up until recently. And now what we can do is, Neil mentioned Lego. So we put the on, it's almost like little Lego bricks. And we scan that. Well, I use DSD, Danny, who's been fantastic with his support on that. And then he can send me a try-in back, as you mentioned. So it's another visit, try-in stage. And we verify that at that stage as well. And if everything fits okay, we go. So it's almost a 2-visit process. It's very, very nice denture work. As long as the implants are in the right place.
And what would you both say? I mean, are there limitations with using the scanners that you've come across?
I was just going to say, I don't think I can think of one. No. But sometimes the workflows can be complicated. For example, if you get a patient who's a full denture patient and has no reference points, because obviously it's not just about making dentures that fit, they've got to be in the right proportion, the teeth have got to be in the right place relative to the lips. And whilst the scanner can capture a lot of information, it can't relate that to the person and its entirety. So if a patient comes with no reference dentures at all, then you have to add in a stage. So that's more of a workflow process, and a couple of the workflows can be a little bit tricky, but once you've been through it, every little bit of effort you've had to put in to learn that is worth it. And going back to what you were saying about implants, when you think we had to use to do the pickup of the information using a flexible bit of plastic in a flexible bit of putty in a flexible tray, how did anything ever fit? Nowadays, especially with implants where everything's engineered and designed to fit together passively, and you're forcing things into fit, it's a wonder we ever got to the results we did. But nowadays, I can't remember the last time I adjusted anything, really. And yet, for me, thinking back to how it used to be back in the analog days, adjusting crowns and dentures took a massive amount of time. Ridiculous. And then you've never felt happy with what you were providing the patient with, because you wasn't thought it was
substandard, didn't you?
Absolutely.
So would you say that it's increased patients' acceptance for treatment?
I think it's changed. I don't know about the acceptance, but they certainly comment on it, because they don't like. No one really likes. I don't know many people that like an impression. Made from a gel that's going to take a while to set. If it's not alginated, it's the putty. It's not setting within seconds. It's setting in minutes. And that's if it's mixed right and it does set properly. And, that's not a pleasant feeling, because you can't take it out. I mean, some people have had conversations with me with the mouthful of alginate. It's quite impressive. But it's not a pleasant experience. And to go from that to the scanner, if they're struggling with the scanner, which some of them do a little bit, you can just take that out of the mouth. So they can immediately recompose themselves. So I think patient acceptance or patient tolerance is certainly better. And I think showing them scan immediately when you've done the scans, I think a lot of them can see their own teeth or gums, and they can see what's happening. And I think that's very different. You know, looking at an impression, it didn't really mean much to most people.
I think it's giving patients a real insight. As Carl says, when you show them their scan, everyone goes, "Oh my God, it's horrible." But actually, they know, but can we do something about this? Can we do something about this? So the patient engagement process is fabulous. I mean, we scan every new patient here, which is a useful reference to have. It's a great starting point for a conversation, a great thing to have to look back at in the future. Regarding lab work, does it improve acceptance? I think, like I say, the second time, yes. And if you've got patients who struggle, who gag a little bit, you say, well, actually, this is still going to be a bit of a struggle, but it's not stuck in your mouth. We can get this in, we can scan, we can take it out. And I've had patients who avoided treatment before because they knew they were going to struggle with the impression, who have said, well, let's give it a try, and they've managed really, really well.
Yeah.
It's a good plan for that.
We had a case last week, actually, where a colleague asked to scan a young lad who had a really severe gag reflex. Real sad story. I can't remember the reason. Trauma to his front teeth, and they've been treated calcium hydroxide, and it's failing. He's failing, but he's really young. So I think he's 12 or 13, and they're going to need extracting because the infection just isn't getting resolved. And they tried to take impressions, and he just couldn't tolerate the impression at all. And he's a lovely chap. So they asked if we could scan him, and we were able to do the scan, and then they're going to either produce a denture or some kind of retainer for him to wear, like an Essex, and do something for him. But for him...
So it was wonderful, didn't he?
Yeah, he was like, oh, that's great, that is. You know, and it was just, you know, he wouldn't have been able to have that procedure without retching and throwing him. It would have been a really difficult to get him from A to B, traumatic. This totally changed it for him. Totally different experience. It's still going to be traumatic because he's going to have to have teeth out, but he's going to have a solution at the end of it.
With the scanners, though, I mean, you said it both of you at the start of us chatting that you've been scanning for quite a few years, but I bet you can remember the first few times you used that scanner. Now, the hints and tips that, you know, I hear you sharing with your nursing team, because obviously, you know, your nurses can scan. The hints and tips that you share with them, they're invaluable. So for any new clinician or new nurse wanting to scan,
I think the basically you just got to pick it up and use it. Dentistry is not a theoretical subject. There's no theory to learn about how the scanners work, about what they do, about what they achieve. Dentistry is a very practical, hands-on subject. The way to find it out is pick it up and have a go. The way we are able to have these hints to people is because we've done the scanners over many years. And we saw it with one nurse. She really wanted to have a go. Struggling, but she was getting there. Some of the scanners they used to have a limit on the number of photos you could take or images you could take, and she was hitting the limit every time. And then just one day, just slightly changed something, and straight away it just clicked. Practice makes perfect, as it does with anything that's a practical thing. But yeah, don't be scared of them. The way they change things, the way they've changed dentistry for me. If I had a day of work that required the scanner and the scanner wasn't available, it doesn't sound facetious to say I'd cancel the day. I would do that because I know that going back to impressions would produce work of inferior quality. So it'd be for the better for the patient. I cancelled the day and came back in when the scanner was available. So just because of the quality of the work that we can produce.
And the speed of the scan as well. So, I mean, the original scan takes 20 plus minutes. So that, you know, taking an impression was, I'm going to take an impression. It's going to take 3 minutes to set. If it's silicon, maybe a little bit longer. And now you can scan in less than a minute. And, you know, that just beats any type of, even if your LJ is still, you know, it's still going to beat. And you can redo it if you miss bits.
Yeah,
I think tips, like Neil said, I think it is a learning curve. It's difficult to actually say without having, you know, it's something that is, you have to have it in your hand and kind of talk through it. But it's things like making sure your scan is fully seated and making sure that you're retracting with the scanner. It's a very comfortable thing. I think that what I see sometimes is just a bit of hesitation to use the scanner as a retractor. Because it's a different instrument that they might not be used to using, and getting the orientation right. So, you know, the scanner head or the mirror or whatever sensor it's using, if you put it in the wrong orientation, sometimes it doesn't want to pick up what you're aiming at. Although they're changing that a little bit as well now. So, for instance, the new upgraded Trios software will, as you're scanning, it'll actually zoom in on the area that you're scanning. So it magnifies it, and it's almost like artificial intelligence. It kind of understands what you're trying to scan. So it hovers around and it tells you where to go back to and stuff. It's incredible.
Using actually our software. They had that on demonstration at the conference, and those three.
It's a little bit CC.
Yes.
Yeah. It was. It will measure the teeth for how dirty they can see the plaque. It can see all sorts of other different things. It can measure recession, and most importantly, it's not quite there. But what they're working towards, as there's three wide cameras in the scanner that measure in 3D. There's also an infrared scanner and an ultraviolet scanner in there, which they're putting in. The new one now, it's not X-rays, but because of the way the light works, it can visualize between the teeth. So it's on a point where within the next couple of versions of the software, it will do away with X-rays. Whilst they're fundamentally lots of aspects to dentistry, they're still not a safe thing to use on a regular basis. And if we can get these light sources to shine through the teeth and show us where decay might be between the teeth, associating that with AI facilities, because another thing that was on show was AI interpretation of radiographs and things. Yeah. So these things are all coming together. And these like 2 years ago, this had pipe dreams, but now we've seen it in action and it's coming.
That's incredible. I didn't know about the light source.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So to almost round this up, gentlemen, my question to you would be, if you were to design the next scanner, what features would it have?
Well, I like the Trios as it is. I would make the tip a little smaller if they can manage that, just so it's a little bit more accessible for a few people, because it can be a little bit bulky. No, I mean, in relative terms. So yeah, just a slightly smaller tip. I think the wireless is the way to go. The balance on we're using the Trios 5. I know there's a Trios 6 out. God knows when this is going to be out, by the way. But that balance, I think that's perfect. Making it a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact. Like Neil said about the number of scans that you had, and it used to kind of slow down and say, "Yeah, enough now. You've done enough scans. That's it," and it wouldn't scan any further. That's changed. So again, you're pretty much unlimited in how you scan. It rewrites over the scan that doesn't like. I think probably just picking up on the soft tissues a little bit more accurate. But it sounds like from what Neil's talking, that it's coming. Yeah.
I think the great thing with a lot of these companies now, and there are, a few years ago, there was one or two scanner companies. There's now a myriad of companies out there. So there is a convergent evolution. We'll see if these ideas come together, but the top providers such as Trios and Itero have got to work hard to stay ahead of the game. And the Trios privileged more in its actual flesh on the other weekend. There was two in the country and they were both there, so I felt very honoured.
Nice.
But seeing the software work, and I think the scanners themselves, you look across a range of scanners that are available and they are all very similar. It feels like the scanner handpiece has achieved what it's always going to be. A slightly smaller head to get into the corners would be a good idea, but the innovation is going to be in the software. This new scanner incorporating both the ultraviolet and infrared scanners within the cameras, and giving you the ability to see all these features. Caries detection was the other thing, being able to get right into the tooth and detect where early caries might be, and then actually show you where it is. It was really quite something. So I think when we get to sort of Trios 7 and 8, the software, I don't think there had changed much at all, but what we can do with the software and the speaker things. You mentioned speed as well. I wanted to come back to that because there was a scan-off competition. How fast can you scan? Because they gave you a denture to scan. Did you win? And 2 seconds off. But you say it used to take 20 minutes to do a scan. Most dentists now are doing a scan within 1 or 2 minutes, which is average. We had to try and scan a denture in its entirety, which for those of you who will know, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but with the software assist working with us, the latest version of the Trios software, we're able to scan an entire denture, and I managed to get down to 22 seconds to scan the entire denture.
And that's equivalent to a copy denture technique.
Yes, you just scan hand denture. Normally you'd have had a wash impression inside it, and then you just scan that. It takes you 30 seconds if you want to pace yourself. And then that's off to the lab before the patient's even left the building. And then the way the labs are working against each other now as well, that's working well for dentists. Hopefully within a week, we have a new denture back. And of course, that file then stays forever. So we often now scan every patient with a denture. We scan their entire denture because that way they've never lost it.
Oh, I mean, what I would like is, sci-fi wise, just a pair of glasses that you wear. So as you're looking around the patient, it scans. Could go wrong, but
So the patient could wear those glasses. You can see their teeth appearing in front of their eyes.
Oh yeah. Like a Meta headset.
Yeah.
Oh, see,
Well,
we're going
have
places with this.
We haven't got time, gentlemen. Thank you very, 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 very much. There's so much more to talk about in regards to digital, so I reckon this will be part one.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.